barely meet our monthly goal to keep the network going, but we got to bring in a little extra this month to finance our trip to Washington, D.C. as we leave a week from today. Be gone for a week, doing a lot of important interviews, as well as filming at a lot of historical sites to come back and produce patriotic, historical, educational programming that, well, we all need to see, but we certainly need to share with our family and our friends, our kids and our grandkids. So if you appreciate that we're doing a project like this to bring you many different shows from our time spent in the nation's capital filming, then we need your support to have the resources to cover the cost of doing this. It's not going to be an inexpensive trip, taking a motor coach, the driver, the team, the camera guy, the lodging, all that goes with it. But when we're done, we're going to have some great footage, produce some great television that I think you'll find very inspirational, encouraging, and educational. So we need to educate a lot of people because it is a real battle, the battle for the mind, for hearts and minds, the battle for ideas, right? So thank you for your support. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. So next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
This is Brandon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brandon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brandon House.
And good evening and welcome to the broadcast on this April 25th, 2025. Joining me tonight is going to be Colonel James Harding, the most decorated veteran in America. I pre-recorded an interview with him this afternoon. He'll be 91 in June. And I said, aren't you like in the top 25 of the most decorated veterans? He said, well, I'm now the most decorated because all the other ones have passed away. So he's the number one most decorated veteran in America today. He flew something like 596 missions during Vietnam. At one point, he got shot down. He had to eliminate 3 communists on the ground to survive and then be rescued himself. And it was all while he was trying to rescue someone else who had been shot down. This is a remarkable interview. You don't want to miss it. 91 years old in June. He'll be 91 in June. Just as sharp as a tack, folks. And what an inspiring and inspirational story. So I want to bring that interview to you right away. And then I'm going to be joined by Patrick Wood. Patrick, well, he's the author of this article, The Convergence of Technocracy and Transhumanism, Patrick Wood's critique, and the vision of a post-Great Reset world. I want to ask him, are we in the middle of the Great Reset right now? Is the Great Reset going on right now? And what will it look like after the Great Reset? Is it possible that a lot of the politicians are going to be replaced by AI? Could judges be replaced by AI? Because I'm going to talk about legislation. There's a country right now that's writing legislation using AI. Transhumanism, technocracy, digital tyranny, if you will. And tomorrow, we're hosting right here at 8 a.m. Central, 9 Eastern, live with Patrick Wood, Logan House, Catherine Austin Fitz. They got a speaker, I think, from Japan. A bunch of people are getting together, and they're doing a symposium on the battle for the brain right here on Worldview Tube at 9 a.m. Central. 8 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Central, 9 Eastern. Tomorrow morning here at Worldview Tube. So we'll talk about all that and more. All right, so let's get to it. Before we do, guys, you know, we are brought to you by you. And you know I take it each and every day. It's Bella Grace. In fact, I'm going to take one right now. That's all there is to it. Right now, coursing through my blood, through my veins, getting into my bloodstream is high in collagen with the peptides cut short. Look at all that hair growth. Woo! That's collagen. Your lining your gut is collagen. And I don't have the leaky gut anymore. Apparently I don't, because the hands aren't cracking and bleeding from the skin condition I had, which apparently is related to leaky gut. And when I got on the collagen, the cracking and bleeding quit. And Dr. Lucky said, well, that's because your gut's lined with collagen and you had a gut that was leaking, and the collagen that you're taking from Bella Grace healed your gut, stopped the leak, and then your psoriasis cleared up, because that's a sign of leaky gut, he said. Hair growth, yep. Haven't taken a Pepcid since December 2023. I can say so much about it. Make sure you roll it up like a tube of toothpaste. You don't want to miss any of it. It's too valuable. Astaxanthin, that's loaded with antioxidants, take on free radicals, crosses the brain-blood barrier. And then the third ingredient is cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory. A lot of our problems are inflammation-related. And when you have a lot of inflammation, that is a real problem for your immune system as well, right? There's not only the elixir, which has 80 clinical trials, the skincare. Melissa loves the skincare. There's her own personal endorsement about the skincare. She loves it, okay? So check that out. There's also the weight management. Logan's taking this now as well. How to get it here? The Bellatrim, all natural weight management, takes away your appetite, really curbs your appetite, but it's also all natural, and it's also really good, according to the studies, for your cardiac health. And it supposedly really takes on the stubborn belly fat. Melissa says she's lost 4 pounds just in the last week or so. I don't know. I don't think that poor gal needs to lose any more weight, but she says she does. So there you go. But she's looking good. She always does. But she's on Bellatrim. And then she also takes the restorative sleep, these gummies, all natural gummies. She takes them to help her stay asleep. But she tends to wake up earlier, or even in the middle of the night, and then she can't get back to sleep. So she loves the restorative sleep. Check it all out, melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. You know, I take this each and every day, the green drink, Gatatana. That is one scoop, the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells, loaded with amino acids, trace minerals, all kinds of things. I give half a scoop to Dolly. There's Binks, the cat that had a tumor. They got it on the Gatatana, tumor gone. And most of our dogs die of cancer. I don't want Dolly to die of cancer. I had to put my last dog to sleep over cancer. I've had to put a few dogs to sleep over cancer. So she's on this every day. I take it, she takes it. And then in addition to that, I do my Numi. Where's my Numi bottle, guys? I don't guess my Numi's bottle's up here. But I do my Numi. And the Numi, I got to find the, pull that down, boys, and I'll find the screen for Numi. I go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And you'll find Numi, which is Swish for Life. And Numi is filled with glutathione. Glutathione is an all-natural occurring molecule in your body that starts to decrease around the age of 20, helps to detox your cells. We know there's toxins everywhere, the water, the air, even our clothing, right? The food, as much as you try to avoid it. People shedding on you, they got the shot. So you want to detox every swish, about 3 minutes, and then spit it or swallow. It's in your bloodstream within 90 seconds. They say it's even better than getting an IV, because the IV, it breaks down. This way it stays in it complete. Lots of studies on this. 162,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. So please check it out. Swishforlife.com. Those are the 3 things I do every day. My Numi, my Gatatana, or Gatatana, depending on how you say it, and my Bella Grace. I do those 3. And maybe if I keep doing it, I'll live to be 91, like my next guest, maybe so. Let's see, what else do we got, guys? Sponsors, don't forget about our foundation. Very crucial we hear from you guys, because we got to raise our normal funds every month to keep the network going, so we can push it out for free. But we also had to raise several $1,000s more this month, because we leave a week from today for Washington, D.C. And as you know, we've set up a lot of filming and a lot of historical sites. So we're going to produce a lot of great educational, patriotic programming when we get back with all the footage at all the different sites. It's going to be amazing. We're hitting some sites, going to some sites to film. I'll tell you about after we're filming. We just don't want anyone showing up and disrupting the situation there. So we'll tell you where some of them are. I've even mentioned to you. You're going to love it. You're going to go, oh, man, that's going to be a great program. So I'm kind of excited to tell you about it once we get some of the sites done. But we're also going to be at the Anti-Communist Museum and check that museum out and do a great interview there with Miss Fleet. We got so many things doing. We're going to be filming on Capitol Hill on that House side and the Senate side. We got passes. We got passes for filming at the White House, reporting from the White House for a week. So it's going to be a great week, but it's not going to be a cheap trip. Not going to be inexpensive, that's for sure. To go out there, bring the crew, take the motor coach, bring our driver, all that. But we got to do it because I don't fly, and we can't fly all this equipment anyway. So we got to go by ground. So if you want to help us so that we can go out there, produce all this, and then come back, post edit, and bring you incredible educational, patriotic programming, please go to worldviewfoundation.com and help us out. You'll also find our mailing address there. And of course, you're helping the network and keep it going with this free 24/7 stream. And we put the shows back up online the next day. And we're doing a big symposium tomorrow. We're producing that. We're not charging those people anything. We're not charging anybody anything for producing for several hours tomorrow. What's it going to be, like 5 hours, Logan? We're not charging anybody anything for that, right? We could say, oh yeah, here's our hourly rate. But no, we're going to produce it for free and push it out for free and pay for the bandwidth and then put it back up online for people to watch. So at some point, it's like, how are these guys doing all this stuff? They have free programming. They got free Roku channel, free Android app, free iPhone app. Yeah, how do we do it? We're listener supported. So please go to worldviewfoundation.com or go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And these companies pay us when you do business with them. And these are premium companies. And I only promote companies that I believe in and who I do business with myself and whose products I personally take, as you just saw me take my Bella Grace. So worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Get a subscription to some of these great things like Bella Grace, like Numi, like Gatatana. Please help us, won't you? worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Okay, so I pre-recorded an interview with Colonel James Harding today. And after this, folks, then I'm going to go to an interview with Patrick Wood. So I want to go right now to the interview with Colonel James Harding. Joining me now is Colonel James C. Harding. He'll be 91 years, should I say young, this June. That's correct. He does not stop, folks. He even knows how to use Zoom. So all you young people out there, come on now. He has quite the career serving our country. In fact, I read where he is like the 25th most decorated veteran. And he flew 596 missions. 596 missions. He did 2 tours of duty during Vietnam. I'm proud to say he resides in our great state of Tennessee. He joins me now. Colonel Harding, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Well, 91 this June. That's pretty remarkable in and of itself. But then you add in your career. I've read where you're like the 25th. You're in the top 25 of the most decorated veterans. Is that correct?
That's correct. But all those above me have passed away.
So are you the only one? You're the most decorated veteran alive.
That's correct.
Wow, an honor to have you. I want to thank my friend Lucy for introducing us. Tell me about.
She's quite a lady.
Yes, she absolutely is. Tell me about your career. I know it says here, I read your bio, you were born in 1934. When did you go into the military? I guess I saw you played football too.
Yes, I played at Penn State, and through the ROTC program, I joined the Air Force. I actually joined as a lieutenant in 1956.
Mm. And then you entered into the military, and of the 596 missions, how many of those were in Vietnam?
Well, they were either in Vietnam, Laos, or Cambodia, or North Vietnam. Those were all missions in Southeast Asia. Now, I did fly an additional 5 missions in the Cuban Missile Crisis. But the 596 were all over in Southeast Asia.
Let me go to the Cuban Missile Crisis real quick. Tell me about those 5.
Well, we were flying with a load of napalm down to Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And until the president got the carrier turned around and was bringing more aircraft down to Cuba, we were flying down there, holding off the shore, but being available in case we were needed to do something to make them go to the mark, so to speak.
Let's go to Vietnam. Tell me about your missions, because you and I talked briefly today for the first time on the phone, and I've interviewed people like Red McDaniel, who obviously was a POW at the Hanoi Hilton. I've interviewed a couple other guys that were there. Were you ever shot down?
Yes, I was shot down twice.
Twice? Tell me about that.
Well, the first time I was, for the first 2.5 years, I was a forward air controller flying in 01, which is it's about a Cessna 170. And those missions were directing strikes or being on the ground with the Army forces. I was actually stationed on Okinawa at the time and went back and forth to Vietnam temporary duty to work with different units over there. I worked with the 173rd Airborne Brigade, the Royal Australian Regiment, the Republic of Korea Capital Division. I flew 100 missions over North Vietnam in 01. And then I came back in 1967 and went back over 1971. And then I flew those missions in the A-1 Skyraider, which is an old Navy aircraft that we took up in the Air Force and used for supporting rescue missions.
And so the first time you're shot down, what year was that?
I was in a helicopter. It was in 1965. I was up in the command helicopter with the brigade commander of the 173rd, and we got hit in the rotor head, and it caused us to have to auto-rotate down to the ground. We immediately set up a defensive perimeter with just the people in the helicopter, the pilot, the co-pilot, the general, and two other airmen or two other soldiers that were in their helicopter with me. And eventually another helicopter come out and picked us up.
Now, the second time, that was one where, boy, that was a close call from what I read.
Well, it was because we were trying to rescue some other people that were down, some Army advisors and a couple of Vietnamese officers, and a forward air controller that had been working with them, forward air controller flying in 02, which is also a Cessna aircraft. And we had actually lost two other people. I had sent two other people there to rescue them, to talk with the rescue. Both of them got hit and were able to, one of them had to essentially jump out of the aircraft, and another one bellied in at another base, and his aircraft was destroyed. And then my wingman and I went out the next morning, and after being there for about a half an hour, I got hit with a surface-to-air missile, SA-7, which is a shoulder-fired missile fired by a Russian Tech-Direct team that was there helping the Vietnamese. And of course, I had to bail out, and it was kind of a strange thing, because when you eject from an aircraft, everything kind of has to work pretty good, or you're in trouble.
And so when you ejected, I read that you encountered three, am I correct in stating you encountered three of the enemy forces?
Yeah, there were guys that shooting at me while I was flying over the top of it, so I wasn't very happy with them. So I had decided I'd have to get rid of them, and I did.
So you're on the ground, and you have three of them coming at you, and it says here that you took on three of them after, I guess after you landed. It says you began clearing enemy foxholes. You took on 3 North Vietnamese soldiers, the first with your .38 pistol, the other with the dead soldier's SKS rifle, and you successfully evaded capture by the North Vietnamese and were rescued by a U.S. Army helicopter. Wow.
Yes, I was. And the sad part about that was that the helicopter, after he rescued me, my wingman got shot down right after I got shot down. So I was able to direct the helicopter over to his position. And of course, when he ejected, he dislocated his shoulder. We were in what we call a fat face. It's an A1 that's got side-by-side seating in it. We were by ourselves, both of us, but when he went out, he hit the piece of metal that separates the 2 canopies, and it dislocated his shoulder. So he was in bad pain. So I was able to direct the helicopter after he picked me up to get him. Then we went over to another base close by, Queen Yan, which is very, very near the North Vietnam, South Vietnam border. We called it the demilitarized zone. We dropped him off, and I was going to actually go back with them to pick the other guys up, but they wouldn't let me in the helicopter, so I told them where to go. As they went back, the helicopter that picked me up was hit by another missile and crashed, and the people on that were killed. The other helicopter that was with him picked up some of the people. He got hit also, but it was able to auto-rotate down to the ground, and eventually they were picked up with a couple of Cobras, which is a gunship, a helicopter gunship, and they rode out on the skids of the gunship. So it was a very interesting day.
Yeah, I would say it is. I'm looking at your some of your rewards and awards, and it says here that during this period, Major Harding was the on-scene commander of an extremely hazardous and complex search and rescue mission that was attempting to recover a downed American pilot who is located in one of the most heavily defended and hostile segments of the Ho Chi Minh Trail in southern Laos. Major Harding made repeated passes at low altitude and airspeed directly over a hostile gun position in order to draw anti-aircraft fire and pinpoint its position. Well, think about that, folks. He's deliberately trying to get them to shoot at him so he can know their position. In spite of battle damage to his aircraft, Major Harding repeatedly counterattacked the numerous heavy gun positions, thereby allowing the vulnerable rescue helicopters to effect a safe and successful recovery of the downed pilot. Through his extraordinary heroism, superb airmanship, and aggressiveness in the face of the enemy, Major Harding reflected the highest credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. So you basically were making yourself the target, and you were the deflection, the distraction, so the helicopter could go in and rescue your fellow soldier on the ground.
Well, that's the way we were able to determine whether it was capable to rescue somebody. And essentially what happened is he was shot down. It was late in the afternoon. But we had what we call a fast pack forward air controller. He was flying an F4. And he was able to go over the top of where the pilot was shot down. Clyde Smith was the pilot. He was able to zoom up from the ground, and I could see where he came out of the clouds. So I rotated, circled down around to the top of where the survivor was, Clyde Smith. I was in the clouds. So I was trying to get down below the clouds. Obviously, the F4 guy could see him because he went over the top of him. When I finally broke out of the clouds, I realized that it was very difficult because there were mountains on both sides of the clearing where I'd come down out of the clouds. And as I was going back over the top of the survivor, Clyde Smith, I did take a couple of rounds in my aircraft, one through each wing, bullets crossing over in front of my face. And we decided we're going to have to try to come back at a different time. So it actually took us almost 5 days to make the rescue because it was on a road. I'm sure most people have heard of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It was a road work or road network of roads that went from North Vietnam, actually through Laos and Cambodia to South Vietnam. The North Vietnamese used that road to shuttle all their equipment that they use in South Vietnam down to the South Vietnamese, what we call the Viet Cong. And they used that equipment then to fight their battle, as well as to, toward the end of the war in 1970, 72 and later, they were actually shuttling down units, North Vietnamese units. So it was very difficult, and we had to use our forward air controllers controlling airstrikes from not only the Navy carrier that the pilot had taken off from, but from some of the Air Force units that were in South Vietnam or flying out of Okinawa. And we systematically destroyed as much of the anti-aircraft artillery because at the time that they started, the survivor, Clyde Smith, was totally surrounded by anti-aircraft artillery, which obviously would shoot down a helicopter if we tried to make a rescue.
And I'm guessing that they were on the ground looking for him as well, correct?
That's correct. In fact, he at one point saw them looking down. He thought they were looking right at him, but we had other things that we were doing at the same time. And it was probably they were a little bit concerned about their own safety because not only were we shooting, but we used some anti-personnel materials, CS gas, to essentially try to scare them away.
When you say they were looking down at him, are you saying they were basically standing right over top of him?
That's what he said. He said he didn't know why they didn't do anything else, but we did intercept a message. We had other aircraft flying around listening what was going on, and we intercepted a message that said to wait until the rescue come in and they would try to destroy the whole rescue force. In other words, they were waiting for our attempt to rescue him.
Did you ever have a chance to visit with Clyde personally?
Oh, yes. He lives in Austin, Texas, and my daughter lives in Austin, Texas. So every time we go out there, we try to stop by and see him, talk to him.
Tell me, if you would, about some of your first conversations with him, or maybe your very first one.
Well, the very first one was very interesting. He says, thanks to you, I'm still alive. And it took quite an effort to rescue him because, as I say, it took 4 days. And the aircraft that you see on the screen here is the O-1. That was what I was flying my first tours over there. Actually, it was quite a few different tours. And that's the aircraft that I was flying when we made the rescue, the A-1 Skyrover. We actually had to use the forward air controllers to systematically destroy all of the anti-aircraft artillery that were surrounding where he had landed. And like I say, we kept thinking about, well, okay, we could go now, but we really had to wait until they were able to destroy enough of the anti-aircraft artillery that we could get in and get back out again without getting shot down.
How old was Clyde at the time? Do you know?
I think he was a little bit younger than I am. He was probably in his, I would say in his mid-30s or maybe a little bit less than that. He eventually retired. He was a Marine pilot, by the way, and it was a two-seat aircraft that was shot down, an A-6. A6 that flew off the carrier, and his backseater, his navigator, was captured and killed.
Mm.
So at least we got the one guy out.
You got Clyde back. I'm guessing he was married or got married and
Yes,
had children?
He was married, but he eventually got separated from his wife. But he ended up getting married again. And he lives on a golf course in Austin, Texas right now.
And had children, of course.
Yes, they did. They had children.
So have you had the chance to meet his children or any of his grandkids? Have you had a chance to meet them?
I have not met anything except his second wife. I've not met his first wife.
I'm asking.
He's a happy guy.
He's what?
He's a happy guy living on a golf course.
I bet he is. I'm asking those questions because that must be remarkable to save someone's life like that, and to put your own life at risk, and all of you that were involved in that. I mean, and then to be successful at it, to actually get him back. That had to be beyond words.
It is beyond words, and every rescue that I've made over there, we've tried to keep in touch with the rescuees as much as we can, but we're all active duty, so we get sent every place else, and there's only a few that I've actually kept in touch with.
Now, were you, when you say people that you rescued, so you made more than one rescue? Were you on some kind of team that was specifically trained to go in and rescue these guys?
Oh, yes, we were. We worked very closely. We had on one base, we had the helicopters who actually did the pickups, and we had the forward air controllers, which essentially were able to find the people that are shot down. And then, of course, we had the helicopter pilots helicopters themselves, the HH-53s, which we used for rescue. Now, we rescued people out of North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, even some in South Vietnam.
Mm. Now, when you got shot down, what was going through your mind? I can only imagine. By then, I'm guessing you knew all about the Hanoi Hilton, as they called it, right?
Yes, I have a lot of friends that were in the Hanoi Hilton at one time or another.
And so
some of them for as much as 7 years.
And so when you were shot down, you at that point you knew about that place, and was that in your mind that I'm not going to end up there?
Well, let me tell you the sequence. First of all, the one missile hit the front of the aircraft. And it's a propeller aircraft. Well, it blew the propeller off. And it blew the cowling off the engine. So I knew I wasn't going to go very far. So I was trying to glide away from where I got shot. And another missile hit the cable that holds the elevator. The elevator makes the airplane go up and down. Well, when it broke that, the airplane was going straight down. So at that point, I knew I had to get out of the airplane or else I was going to go into the ground real fast. So as I automatically just went through the ejection sequence, which is getting everything ready, tightening your shoulder harness, pull on the levers, and the canopy goes off, then you go out, and then as you go up, parachute opens up and you start floating down. Well, as I was floating down, they were shooting at me from the ground. And so the first thing I did is I pulled out my 38 and I said, no, I can't. That's not going to do any good. So the next thing I did is put 38 away and got my knife out. And I said, well, I probably need to make sure I get on the ground first. So I put my knife away and concentrated on the landing. And at that point, like I say, I could see where I'd seen the foxholes on the way down in the parachute. So I would wait until somebody popped their head up, and then I would shoot them. And then once I shot the first one, I was close enough where I could get his rifle, and then I could shoot the other two that were there in those foxholes.
So you used that gentleman's that guy's rifle to take out the other two?
Yes. From that point on, we were talking to a helicopter pilot, and he came over. I was able to actually direct him to me. We have what we call survival radio, and that's the frequency that every rescue helicopter and us is on that same frequency. So we are able to communicate with each other, and I could essentially guide him to where I was. But it was pretty obvious where I was. He was able to pick me up pretty quickly. And of course, it was very interesting because I think the helicopter is probably a little way off the ground. But I jumped up into it. I had a little bit extra energy there.
You had some adrenaline going, I would say. Were you taking fire on your way up?
Well, he didn't take any fire there. What happened is we were getting shot. The people who were shot down with missiles. And they were shooting at us, but then I kind of took care of the ones who were shooting at us from the ground. But we couldn't take care of the ones who were using the SA-7 missile because they weren't at the same place. They were nearby, close enough that they could see the aircraft and shoot them down. And remember, it looked like a Dover-sized shotgun, this missile launcher. They hold it on your shoulder and then they fire it, and it homes in on the heat of the engine of the aircraft. It's a heat-seeking missile. So once we got my wingman and got out, we went to another airfield that's close by, Quignon, and then when they went back in and picked up the other guys.
Now, how quick did you get back into the cockpit?
The day after that.
So a day after that, you're back out flying missions?
I flew missions for another 2 days until our commander said, it's time for you to take a little bit of break. I guess I was being a little bit nervous or something, so he had me go away for a couple of days to Bangkok. We were from Thailand, Nakhon Phanom, Thailand, and Bangkok was just down the road a little ways.
Now, were you married at that time?
Yes, I was.
So when you're taking your little rest in R&R there, were you sending a telegram home? Were you picking up the phone and talking to your wife?
They called, and of course they always send a group by the house. It's usually a chaplain, a couple of officers. They go by the house and talk to the family.
So your wife sees them walking up the walkway. I'm sure her heart sunk, right?
I didn't ask her.
But you did get the phone call to her on your R&R and said, I'm okay.
Actually, you've got to remember now, this was back in the days when we didn't have a lot of communication back and forth to the States. It's not like they have nowadays where they pick up a cell phone and
right.
a satellite phone, and they talk to everybody. We had to get on what we call single sideband. And it was very, very difficult to make a connection because what you would do is you would talk to somebody in the United States who had what they call them. We had similar setup like that. And then he would make a phone call and connect you on the phone. And of course, every time you finished talking, you had to say over so that they know you were through talking, and they would do the same thing. It was very difficult. And the phone calls were not very long.
But you did talk to her?
Yes, I did.
So let's talk about you come home. You come home from Vietnam, and I know you went on from there to serve. I read here that you went on to serve with the 23rd Tactical Fighter Wing at England Air Force Base from November 72 to November 73, followed by service at Randolph Air Force Base, where you served until June of 76. Then returned to Maxwell Air Force Base, where you served until July of 76 to September of 1977. And your final assignment was at Shaw Air Force Base, where you served until September 1977, until your retirement from the Air Force, July 31st, 1979. How were you treated when you came home?
It was, we were too busy to worry about anything else. We were just doing our normal duty. I mean, we were on a base. Each place we were on a base. And so we didn't have to worry about anybody else. The strange thing is one of my assignments was at Air War College, and I got to meet a lot of the POWs that were repatriated. Because not only did I go through as a student, but then I stayed there for another year as an instructor at Air War College. So during that 2-year time, I got to meet a lot of the POWs coming back. The ideal thing for those folks was to give them their first 2 assignments of choice. In other words, if they had been a POW for some of them as much as 6 years, some of them as little as a couple of years, but they would give them the first 2 assignments of their choice. So our job at the Air War College was to get them ready to get back into the Air Force, because obviously, if you're a POW, you don't know what's going on. They had to get up to date on what was happening in the world and in the United States and in the military. So, like I say, we had quite a few of those POWs were either classmates of mine or the next year they were students of mine. So it gave them and us a time to recuperate and get back ready to do our job again.
The reason I asked is I know when I've interviewed some of them that were at the Hanoi Hilton, I've interviewed 2 of those gentlemen, they were shocked to find out what was going on in the country, the way some people were behaving, the way they were treating military officers and soldiers, and just the disorder. I mean, it was like the society was falling apart, the attack on the family. They were shocked when they came back 6, 7 years from being a POW and what was happening to our country. Do you think the American people today understand, maybe after 4 years of what our country's just been through, the scourge of communism and why it was so important for America to try to stop that from spreading around the world? And particularly, I know that Lenin, he talked before he died about, we're going to take Eastern Europe, Asia, and then we'll surround the United States and collapse it from within. And they sure are continuing to try that. And now they're continuing to try that in many of the blue states. Do you think the American people are up on the threat of communism enough?
No, I don't. And you got to add to that Islam.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said Islam, because you're learning about me, I'm learning about you. We have produced documentaries on Islam. We had a man from Saudi Arabia show up at one of my conferences, Christian Worldview conferences from Saudi Arabia. He's from Saudi Arabia. He had to be taken out. He had 2 weapons on him, set out in his car and made 2 videos threatening me and my fellow speaker, brandishing 5 weapons, 2 semi-automatics. The media interviewed him as though he was the victim. And the state officials didn't want to do anything about it. They didn't want to touch it. It was too politically charged. Finally, when we took the videos that the man made, which really told the story, he did himself a disservice by making those, it went international, literally, because the videos were so shocking, brandishing these weapons and flashing them in the parking lot of our conference, Christian conference. He did do 7 months. We could have backed down or kept going. We chose to keep going. And now we're covering the fact that you got these mosques and 402 acre compound now being built by one of these imams that I've been exposing for years, who is literally running the mosque down the street from where my studio is. He's now in Plano, Texas. They're building a 402 acre compound. They got one going on in Irving, Dallas. They just did a huge Islamic event at the town hall of Sugar Land, Texas, outside of Houston. I'm so glad you mentioned Islam, because we talk here a lot about the red-green axis, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist. Boy, Colonel, they have really infiltrated our country, and I think this is now people inside the wire. You must think the same way from what you just said.
I do think the same way, and I think that if you remember, over 800,000 people have been flown into the United States in the last 4 years, so to speak. They are not being idle. we know we've got terrorist training camps all over the United States. I don't know whether they're Chinese. I don't know whether they're Muslims. I don't know what they are, but I do know that there are countries where the Muslims have essentially taken over cities. In fact, over half of the mayors in Great Britain are Muslim mayors, and they're using Sharia law to run those cities. It's very, very frightening as far as I'm concerned. We see what's happening in some of the countries up in the northern part of what do you call it? The Benelux countries, different countries up there where the Muslim men come over, and of course they're starved for affection, and they just take what they want. And I say, when you have a mayor of a city in Great Britain, they work with Sharia law.
Absolutely.
And we've got people in the United States the same thing. They're being bothered by Sharia law. And they do not believe the same things we do.
Absolutely not. You're 100% right. And as you know, in Great Britain, there are people being arrested for saying very accurate, truthful, nonviolent things about Islam. They're just speaking the truth the way you and I are right now. And yet they get a knock on their door that what they have said has offended someone and they're under arrest. And we've seen these videos. And of course, I know that the Islamists and the Marxists would love to shut down our free speech using things like, oh, you hurt the feelings of somebody in the LGBTQ community, or you hurt the feelings of someone in the Islamic community. And they would love to use this so-called hate speech to deprive us of our freedom of speech, our freedom of religion, to shackle Christian radio, to shackle the pulpits. Did you ever believe, Colonel, when you're over there in Vietnam, trying to liberate the South Vietnamese from communism and stop its spread, did you ever think you would find your own homeland country in the condition it is today, and that there are about half the country is divided over these issues? Did you ever think this would occur in our country?
I didn't think that. In fact, just another bit of information. I spent 4 years in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
As an advisor to the Saudi Air Force. In fact, one of the commander of the Saudi Air Force was a classmate of mine at Air War College. And my job at that point was to train their young officers, similar to what we have in our squadron officer school for lieutenants and captains, to help them be better officers. We have a pretty good relationship with Saudi Arabia, but it's still an Islamic country. It's not as radical as Syria and Yemen, some of those other countries, but it's still a Muslim country. You do not do anything that would violate the Muslim way of life if you're working there. It's very, very touchy for us. Your wife has to have been totally covered from head to foot. You have to be essentially covered as well. We don't have to cover our heads, but they do. But it worries me more than anything else is the fact that we have them trying to take over our country. We have representatives in the United States House of Representatives. We have senators that are Muslim and are communists. We have more communists than you can imagine in our country right now. It bothers me because when we go to another country, we don't try to take it over. We don't try to push our way on to our way of thinking on their way of thinking. So when they come here, that's what they're trying to do. The more of them there are in a country, the more they try to take over, whether it's the communists or whether it's the Muslims.
Carlos the Jackal wrote that only a coalition between the Marxists and the Islamists can bring down America. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. Colonel, we've got a little reprieve here, I believe. We've got a little reprieve right now, but
That's for sure.
I'm reminded that we have midterm elections coming up very quickly and that things can change very fast. I'm still very concerned about our voting machines, and I really would like to see us going to paper, one day of voting, vote and count in one day. So I don't know what's going to happen in the midterm. I think President Trump was able to win in 2024, November of 2024, because it was just such a big turnout, too big to rig. I don't know what's going to happen in the midterm. I think we both agree we've been given a little window here.
Very low. Very low.
So a small window.
Yep. And the reason I say that is because if you remember, when his first term, they tried very hard to keep him from getting elected. He was able to overcome that. Well, that really hurt them, and it made them very, very angry. So they spent a lot of time and effort and money to make sure that the second time that he ran for office, he was not going to win. Now, he won, but because they were able to essentially cheat, he was not elected. And like you say, too big to rig for this one, but they're going to learn. They are not going to quit fighting, because they're determined. Look how many people are speaking out against Trump, even though he's doing good for all of them. I just can't imagine how our country is going to survive another 4 years of a Democratic government again.
And they've got people like AOC and Bernie Sanders talking about being a ticket together. I mean, can you imagine what they would do? We here, I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm on 74 Christian stations every day, Monday through Friday. And my team, my wife and son and my team around us here, we were all very convinced, Colonel, that if Kamala had won, we were probably just months away from being either shut down or legislation passing and restrictions coming in that would have really governed what we could and could not say. And I don't know what it's like to live in a communist country, but I have told my listening friends, people listen to our broadcast, that during those 4 years of Biden, I got a little taste of what it must have been like to be in Eastern Germany, to be behind the Iron Curtain, to watch that window close, because we were watching it here and we got this little window. But I'm like you. I'm very concerned, and I got my first grandchild born last year. I've got kids. My kids are in their early 20s. I've lived a good life. I hope I live to be 91 like you are. I'll be 56 on tomorrow. 56 tomorrow. But I'm not hopeful that I can make it to 91 and live in a free America.
We will be able to do it if we remember that God's in charge. We've got a president now that believes not only in that, but he believes in the people of the United States of America. And I can look back on my careers, things I've done, whether it was on the football field, whether it was flying, whether it was teaching high school kids the junior ROTC program. And I know God was with me. He was with me all the time. I'm not saying that it's exactly why I'm here, but I have a feeling that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for God, because a couple of times I've had some pretty close calls. I've been able to survive all of those close calls and come out on top. And I thank God for that all the time. And I know that that's why I'm here today, because he's got some kind of a mission for me to do. And whether it was teaching, whether it was flying, whatever it was doing, I'm just thankful that I've got him on my side, and we've got him on our side in the country. If we will just repent and come back to God, come back to the light.
Let's close with that. At what age did you become a Christian? At what age did you understand the gospel and commit your life to Christ and believe in his death, burial, and resurrection and become a Christian?
From the very beginning, I've got a whole string of medals that I had for going to Sunday school every Sunday. I grew up on a farm, and when you're a farmer, you have to believe in God because he takes care of you. Whether it rains or shines or snows or whatever, it's in Pennsylvania, so a lot of times it was snow, but we always knew that it was going to come out okay. And my parents believed in that. We had 6 kids in our family. Now we've got 12 grandchildren, and 29 great-grandchildren. So we try to get that through to all of them. Some of them it works, some of them it doesn't. But I still believe that in the end, he's going to survive. He's going to be what makes us a country that we should be.
Well, I want to thank you for your service to our country, and I'm glad the Lord preserved you. And you're amazing. You'll be 91 in June. You're sharp as a tack. You're just amazingly how sharp you are, and that you're still willing to jump on the computer and figure out Zoom. I was listening to you with Logan trying to figure it out. I thought to myself, sitting here, I could hear him down the hall. I thought, I'm 56 years old. I'm not sure I would have the patience that he has right now to try to figure out Zoom. And I'm 56. He's going to be 91 in June, and it didn't seem to bother you at all. You were just working your way through it until you got it fixed. Amazing.
Oh, I have a great wife, and she was helping me.
Well, thank her as well. And again, thank you for your service to our country. Do you have a website or anything you want to promote?
No, I used to be on Facebook, but they kept bringing out all of my comments, so I decided to leave that alone.
Can you believe that? All that you have done for our country to fight for liberty and freedom, which includes those constitutional rights, freedom of speech, and you are now the most decorated veteran alive, and you're not allowed to speak on something like Facebook. Now, if that isn't an indictment of where we find ourselves in the country, and what a shame, because so many Americans need to be hearing from people like you now and learning from your wisdom. I mean, what an indictment that you just finally gave up on Facebook because you couldn't get on and make comments without them being shadow banned or blocked. Well, I'm glad you're still doing interviews, because when I was researching you, it looks like you're still doing quite a few interviews with different people.
I do them as much as I can. I'm always willing to do the best I can and go back and do it again.
Well,
if we don't make it this time, we'll do it another time.
Well, I sure thank you, and I'm glad to have met you. And I know my audience, I have a very patriotic, reverent audience, and I know they are so thankful for my time with you tonight. And I want to thank you, and also thank your wife for helping you get on Zoom there, will you?
I will. Thank you. Thank you for letting me on. Appreciate it.
The privilege is all ours. Folks, Colonel James Harding checking in tonight, the most decorated veteran alive today. He was in the top 25. Well, the rest of them passed away, leaving us with Colonel James Harding. What a privilege to have him on. And I want to thank Lucy, my friend Lucy here from Tennessee, for telling me about him. And then I said, well, give me his phone number. And I called him, and he answered, and I told him who I was, and that Lucy's my friend, and I'd like to interview you. And he said, yes. And I think we're all better for it, don't you guys? This is exactly the kind of programming we want to do here, folks. Now, you guys all know we're leaving a week from today for Washington, D.C., and we're going to be going to a lot of historic sites and filming, because I love history. And I hope you do. I think you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this program. And I think it's so important for us to learn from people like, well, Colonel Harding, to also learn the sacrifice, the courage, the self-sacrifice. I mean, we just heard about a gentleman that was flying around deliberately trying to draw anti-aircraft fire, deliberately trying to get shot at. And he was shot at, and then got shot down, and then had to eliminate 3 communists on the ground and then be rescued. And you think about all these people that were involved in this what did he say? It took him like 4 or 5 days to rescue this one man, Clyde. All these people that were willing to lay down their life to save Clyde. And then the guy, the helicopter guy willing to put his life on the line to save Colonel Harding. Self-sacrifice, commitment, endurance, perseverance, overcoming fear. There's so many things we can learn, that I can learn, that we all can learn from guys like this. And frankly, isn't it a shame that I had not heard of him? That guys like this are not routinely lifted up in our society and media. When we were at CPAC a couple years ago, a gentleman handed me his book about a POW that had spent time at the Hanoi Hilton. And then they moved him over to what they called Auschwitz because he escaped for a period before they caught him. And I was working on Brainwashed America Part 2 at the time, where I was detailing the story of Red McDaniel, who was also at the Hanoi Hilton. And I was bringing in clips from Jeremiah Denton, who was, I think, the longest held POW, who went on to become a U.S. Senator from Alabama. And I was working on that documentary at the time. And I'd taken a break from it. We went to CPAC, and I'm interviewing people. And this gentleman walks up to me and says, "Hey, I wrote this book. You might be interested in interviewing me about it. It's about a POW that was at the Hanoi Hilton." I said, "Oh, wow. I'm producing a documentary right now on brainwashing, and I have a segment on the difference between the POWs of the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Because it was out of the Korean War that the code of conduct was created because of what we saw happen to the American POWs during the Korean War. They realized we got to get a code of conduct and teach these soldiers what to do if they're captured, and how to keep following commands and try to escape, and how to avoid being brainwashed." And so I was studying the difference between what happened to our POWs in the Korean War to the Vietnam War. And I'd been studying and, like I said, interviewing guys who had been in the Hanoi Hilton. So when he presented me with this book, I said, "Well, I definitely want to interview you." He said, "Well, you can interview the man that the book is about." I said, "What?" And he pointed, he said, "He's right there." I said, "He was at the Hanoi Hilton?" He was standing there with all of these people at CPAC standing around him at the rope line, listening to, the broadcast I was doing and other media people were doing up and down the road. People were completely oblivious to the fact we had an American hero sitting there who had done over 2,000 days in Vietnam as a POW. I had the privilege to interview him twice right there in person over that 2 days, included in my documentary. I had the chance to interview Mr. Coker, who was also a POW at Hanoi Hilton. But these are people we should all know about. And I'm glad Lucy told me about Colonel Harding, because this is who we should be lifting up to our students in America. And I'm glad he's still doing interviews. But this is one reason we're going to Washington, D.C., to film some of these patriotic sites and locations. Arlington National Cemetery, the Vietnam Memorial Wall, many other places we're going to put together good, patriotic, historical, educational programming to air right here for all of you to watch, particularly as we come up on our 250th anniversary. So if you appreciate what we're doing, and you appreciate the fact we're going to take a week, leaving a week from today, go to DC and do that, and I'll be on the air, off the air for that week. I'm just going to tell you now, I'm going to be on the air, off the air, because I'm going to have to spend a lot of time. We're going to be spending a lot of time moving around Washington and Virginia with these interviews. So I'm not going to do. I'm going to do my worldview report. We've already rented a studio, and in DC, and I'm going to be doing my worldview report. And I'll be trying to jump on for Brandon House Live some, but I'm going to probably have a guest host, do some best ofs. So I'm going to miss being on here regularly that week, but what we're going to get from it is so many great interviews, as well as footage to produce great programming when we get back. But if you appreciate that, please consider supporting us now. We've got to raise the revenue for our normal monthly bills, plus several $1,000s extra to cover the cost of renting the motor coach, taking the crew out there. I don't fly anymore, plus all of the equipment we have to bring with us. It would be torn up or lost if we did fly. And we're making some stops between here and Washington. I won't detail where, but you're going to be excited when you find out where we stopped, where we filmed, what we were doing. So we got to rent the motor coach. We've got a driver, and then we're bringing the crew, and then we got lodging, and then we had to buy permits for filming, $900 to the park service. So it's going to cost us several $1,000s to do this. But it's going to be worth it, and it's going to be programming that we can play now once we're post-editing all of it together for years and years to come. And if you want to be a part of helping us raise the finances for it all, please consider going now. worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Again, worldviewfoundation.com. And you'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Okay? Thank you for doing that. We'll be right back after this break. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper, and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. One scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gatatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
All right, so you just saw that great new spot about Gatatana. Gatatana. Which one is it, Logan? He doesn't know. And so Melissa brought it to me. Well, I had that Bella Grace pumping through my veins and blood. Now I got Gatatana. Logan, I'm going to try to live as long as Colonel Harding. I'm going for 91. Could you handle the old man being around till he's 91, Logan? Got to be sitting here. Hey, Logan! That's something to look forward to, isn't it, Logan? He's like, yeah, Dad. You're going to take all my three, my Gatatana, my Numi, and my Bella Grace away from me, aren't you? He laughed. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm 56 tomorrow. If I'm here at 91 Can you imagine what the world will be like if I'm still here at 91? I mean, if it's like this now, can you imagine? I won't be here. I'll be replaced by artificial intelligence, a robot. Can you imagine, Logan? What the world would be like if, and how many, what? I mean, let's say I'm 56 now, 91, subtract 56, I'll be 56, but that's 35 years from now. Can you imagine what the world will be like in 35 years? I don't know. I don't see it happening. I don't think we'll be here in 35 years. Do you, Logan? I don't think so either. I'm not sure we'll be here in 35 days, the way it's going. I'm counting on the rapture. Ugh. I'm counting on the rapture. Only thing I'm worried about is who's going to take care of precious Dolly. Ugh. Oh, well. The Lord take care of you, Dolly. That's reassuring to you, I'm sure, right, Dolly? All right, there you go, folks. Get right to it. MelissaHouseGPA.com, MelissaHouseGPA.com. Get your Gatatana. It helps keep this broadcast network going when you get a subscription. It really does. Subscriptions really matter because then your product shows up. You don't have to worry about forgetting. But we also say, hey, look, we got all these people taking Gatatana. Bella Grace, Numi. We know what's coming in every month from the revenue, which takes a lot of strain off of us. Subscriptions are very important for you, so you get your product every month. Don't forget, they're very important for us because we also are able to see what our inflow will be that month in order to keep supporting the network. So between the foundation and our sponsors, folks, this is how we do it. All right, let's get to Patrick Wood. Joining me now is Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. Hey, tomorrow, Saturday, April 26th, I think 8 a.m. Central Time, right, Logan? 8 a.m. Central Time, right here at Worldview Tube. Logan, Patrick Wood, and several others are sponsoring a big event. I want to talk about that. It's something you all can watch for free. And the convergence of technocracy and transhumanism, Patrick Wood's critique and the vision of a post-Great Reset world. What's it going to look like after the Great Reset? Joining me now is Patrick Wood, who hosts, along with Logan House, Technocracy.news every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern. Patrick, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
You bet. Good to be here.
You're going to have Catherine Austin Fitts as well, right?
Exactly. She's going to be the moderator for our symposium. She's graciously agreed to do that. And she was a moderator of our first symposium last fall as well. That was Omnivore. And she really gets it. As you know who she is very well.
Absolutely. Yeah. She gets it.
Yes.
What's the theme of this one?
Well, this is going to be about the brain. In particular, the war against the brain, the battle against the brain. This is legendary at this point. We see all these articles all of a sudden coming out about the people, talking about the attack on the brain. And I think everybody's kind of getting an idea. Something's going wrong here with our brains, and the technology that's being used against us at this point is just, it's over the top. So we're going to unpack this. My point of making an international symposium, for one thing, we're based in 4 continents: Australia, Europe, England, and Japan. And I'm in America, obviously. You guys are in Tennessee. So this is certainly an international symposium with scholars around the world who don't have an axe to grind necessarily for America or against us or whatever. And we're going to unpack this whole business about the brain, the battle for the brain. And in 5 hours, we're going to cover so many different topics. But basically, we're going to cover everything at this point. And people can figure out after that, they can dissect it, chew on it, whatever they want to do. And hopefully other people will take our research further, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So that's tomorrow, folks, 8 a.m. Central, 9 Eastern, right here at worldviewtube.com, and it's completely free. Now, before we get into what's the world going to look like after a post-Great Reset, look at this video I saw today, because this is, I guess, what Klaus Schwab and all these guys mean when they talk about us being phased out. You're going to sit around and you're going to play video games and be drugged up, says Noah Harari. Well, no, thank you. Look at this. They're folding the hotel blankets, the hotel towels. What do you make of that? That's the hotel towels, and they're filling up the bins and everything, moving the bins around. Good grief. Did that guy, wait, one of them, I think, just plugged himself back in. Did you see that? Look at that. What do you make of that?
Oh, yeah. Crazy. Just crazy.
I mean, it's going to happen, isn't it? The robots thing's going to happen. Not a joke.
Exactly. Yeah. The age of robots is upon us at this point. And I've been talking about this now for 3 or 4 months at least. That Elon Musk is going to release his prototype of his Optimus robot by the end of this year. He'll have at least 5,000 of them on the street, so to speak. You might even see one somewhere. But other competitors of his also are releasing their prototypes this year. And they're expecting mass production in 2026.
Wow. When we talk about mass production, Elon Musk knows how to make things in mass, at scale, right? He knows how to do this. He's the modern day Henry Ford when it comes to that, isn't he?
Exactly. So if he can make cars by the hundreds of thousands, he can make robots even faster because they're smaller. And basically, they contain the same technology that he's already using in his cars. So what's to discover at this point, right? He's got the formula already in hand, and we're going to see robots all over the place in the workplace, in the service industry. People will probably buy them for their home use as well. I want one. Do you want one?
Well, if it'll fold the towels and the sheets, I might want one.
I know.
My wife would appreciate that for Christmas, I'm sure. Let's go to this one. The convergence of technocracy and transhumanism, Patrick Wood's critique, and the vision of a post-Great Reset world. All right. So let me ask you this before we get to the post-reset. Are we in the middle of the reset right now? Is the reset going on right now, Patrick?
It is. I firmly believe that it is. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I'm looking at it from probably another elevation higher than most people will look at it. But we're in the middle of the Great Reset right now. This is what Klaus Schwab talked about, the Great Reset, the Great Reset, the Great Reset. And when will that occur? Everybody speculated. Well, it's not hard to understand right now that the global economic system is being turned on its ear. And it's interesting now that Trump has become the great disruptor at this point. And so, the technocrats that are milling around the administration these days, people like Elon Musk and David Sachs, et cetera, these technocrats, arch technocrats, I might add. Peter Thiel, exactly, another one. These people have another agenda other than make America great again. These people basically want to destroy America and all that we have worked for over 200 years now. So there's another agenda at play right now, and it's anticipating the rise of technocracy. When the Great Reset is over, and it doesn't matter what you see for ashes of society left, it really doesn't matter. But technocracy is going to rise out of that whole thing to take over the world. And this is exactly what these technocrats like Peter Thiel are looking at this point. And his philosophers, Curtis Yarvin, that guy's absolutely off the wall. And people like David Sachs and Elon Musk and the whole crew that he has brought in to basically replace government workers at scale. This is not just a transformation at this point. This is really a revolution.
A revolution. And of course, we're seeing the dollar go down and gold going historically high. So the days of the dollar are numbered, right?
It is. We predicted long ago that all the paper currencies of the world are going to go up in smoke at one time. this is not an issue of one balancing against another. That's what we were used to over last 30, 40 years. We see the dollar go up, then the yen would go up, and the euro would go up, and they bounce around. They're all going to be on the chopping block at this point because digital currency has to replace the whole thing because it's all based on debt. In other words, the monetary system of the world is a debt-based system that's predicated on loaning money to governments and charging interest for it. So this whole system at this point is so fragile that the whole thing is going to go up in smoke. And that will be where they introduce this whole concept of digital currency, because that can replace everything that we currently have, including cash and your monetary stuff, your loans, everything that you have in the bank at this point. All this stuff can be replaced by digital currency. And the idea at this point is not going to be a debt-based economic system at that point, where you borrow money against the bank or somebody else has a fat wallet and you get some Bitcoin from them at interest or something. That's not going to be the way it is. At that point, an asset-based system is predicated on digitizing assets in the first place. So when you talk about your assets, your house, your car, whatever your investments you have, when you talk about the assets that the United States owns, for instance, all of the hundreds of millions of acres that the government owns, with all the buildings they own and stuff, all this can be digitized and converted into a asset-based system where the people controlling it then will be in charge of those assets. This was what Klaus Schwab was talking about when he said, by 2030, you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Forget happy. But private property is on the chopping blocks right now.
So people that have saved and bought farmland or bought rental properties or whatever, a hard asset to kick out revenue to them every month in their later years, what happens to them? What happens to their property? What happens to that cash flow that maybe they built up?
Exactly. This is going to be an unknown for a lot of people, I realize. And I can't think it through all the way. But for people who own assets now, who especially income producing assets like real estate, rental property, stuff like that, you may still be able to get some type of rent off of that because it's not based on debt necessarily. If somebody's paying you for a service, you get your money, whatever, and you live on it. But the whole business of the debt-based economic system, that's a whole other order of magnitude, because the central bank is involved with that, all the banking system. This is how they create money in the first place. This could be in view for total destruction by these technocrats at this point, who want to implement this digital currency in the world.
Which, of course, is why all the central banks are buying up gold in huge numbers, because they know they've got to have to back a percentage of these digital assets of theirs, whether it's the BRICS system or whoever it is.
Yes.
They're going to have to back it with some kind of hard asset, land, minerals, gold, right?
Yes,
I think
exactly.
President Trump knows this. I think that's why he's talking about the gold at Fort Knox, why he's talking about reevaluating the gold. Is it there? And if so, can we reset it to today's current price, which would add a lot of money to the federal government's books. Then he's talking about the minerals in Ukraine, give us a contract on that. He's talking about Greenland. He's talking about Canada being a 51st state.
Yes.
So you're talking about minerals. You're talking about hydroelectricity. I mean, he must be thinking not just about Greenland being national security, as some of it speculated. It has to also have something to do with what's in the ground that is a hard asset that can be put onto the digital books and tokenized by the federal government to say that, hey, all of a sudden now we're solvent. Because he's looking at a collapse of the U.S. government and economy unless he can find some means by which to come in with a hard assets or scoop up hard assets to use as a backing for our currency. True or false?
It is, and this is exactly.
True? It's true?
No, this is the same mentality that David Rockefeller had in 1973 when he saw the end of money. Mathematically, it was a certainty. At some point in time, he converted his thinking into grabbing resources rather than just grabbing money. Money's like a representation of an asset, right? But he saw the end of money at some point, and he said, "Hey, the best thing you can do now is get the resources in your pocket all together, because then it doesn't matter if you have the resources. People will ask you, I'll give you anything for those resources, and you're set for life." So there's been a land rush to grab resources all around the world. It's not just in our country. It's not just about Canada necessarily, but you see the consolidation of these huge corporations, and even people like BlackRock. Who but BlackRock can go to Panama and buy the Panama Canal? It's like, give me a break. They're not going to get it, I don't think. But who on earth had that money, that kind of money, to buy basically a national asset of that caliber?
And this is where you have the now acting director of the World Economic Forum saying that water, it should not be private, that water should be owned, right? It's too valuable of a resource just for everybody to just have.
Yes, that's exactly right. And you see the ramp up to own the resources. This is where it's all about, what it's about in the future. And whoever owns these resources, obviously the oligarchs think they're the ones that are going to be on top. Maybe they will be. It could be, but I don't want it that. We don't want that, of course. But these people at this point seem to have the ability and the wherewithal and the money to convert their money at this point into these assets. This is, by the way, this is one of the reasons the central bank system is scrambling for gold all of a sudden. You might remember in the 70s and 80s, they said, oh, gold, forget gold. Gold is not a monetary asset, they said. You don't want gold. And so they've suppressed the price of gold all these years just to make sure that we didn't accumulate any. But now all of a sudden they've reversed field. Now they're buying up gold like crazy, like there's no tomorrow. They see the handwriting on the wall now, I think, where this whole system is coming unplugged. And if they don't get their stake right now with whatever hard asset they can get their hands on, it's probably going to be in real estate, but gold is easy for them to get their hands on at this point, and that's exactly what they're doing. Every central bank in the world is doing it at this point.
And now we've got India and Pakistan going at each other. Apparently 80% of Pakistan's water depends on a treaty, and they're shutting off water. It's India shutting off water to Pakistan, right?
Yes.
And so it goes back to the idea of commodities like water and using water as a weapon.
I know. This is reminiscent of the Wild West, when somebody had a stream running through their property and it went to somebody else's property, and then they built a dam and they got all the water, the stream dried up downline, and there was all of a sudden a range war over the water, tear that dam out, sort of thing. This is the same thing in modern context, what they're doing on a national basis.
And of course, did we just have some Islamists from Pakistan go over and kill a bunch of citizens in India, correct? In Kashmir.
Yes. So
we're about to see a war break out. We got so many wars about to break out all over the globe. Do we not, Patrick?
Well, yeah, I know. Isn't this reminiscent of when the Bible says there will be rumors of wars and rumors of wars? And that means there's a diversity of reasons why there might be a war in any particular area of the world. Maybe it's over water. Maybe it's over rare earth minerals. maybe it's over migration or something like that. It doesn't matter. There's wars and rumors of wars all over the place now. Take your pick.
Take your pick. All right, let's go back to your article. So the article is entitled The Convergence of Technocracy and Transhumanism, Patrick Wood's Critique and the Vision of a Post-Great Reset World. So in a post-reset world, you end up with energy accounting, replacing monetary systems with resource allocation based on energy quotas. So how much energy are you using? How much water are you taking? Smart cities, we know about that, right? Sustainable development, that's Agenda 21, basically the end of private property, radical environmentalism. And then, of course, then you have the biotech interfaces, Neuralink, wanting to hook that to people's brains, genetic engineering, then cryonics and immortality, which, of course, again, a lot of these guys, they believe that when you die, you're dead, it's over. Some of them, I guess, are into New Age, cosmic humanism, New Age. Others, I guess, think when you die, you're dead, it's over. And so they want to try to live forever. But a post Great Reset world, tell me what it would look like, in your words, to our audience tonight.
Well, scientific dictatorship, that's where the whole thing is headed in the end. Scientific dictatorship means that basically the world will be controlled or monitored or whatever by AI at this point. That's by algorithm. And this is what we see in China right now with their social credit scoring system. This is almost here in America. It's almost there in Europe right now. And most of the industrialized world at this point, they're going to see some type of a system that will control the citizenry. And this can't be stopped at this point, apparently. We have people like Eric Schmidt running around saying, oh, AI is going to be out of our control, and we don't know what it's going to do to the world. Oh my gosh, Eric Schmidt. He's a member of the Trilateral Commission, by the way.
He's saying that in 3 to 5 years, researchers will crack the case on so-called artificial general intelligence, or human-level AI. And he says that it's going to get to a point where it won't take orders from us anymore, and that AI will become smarter than all humans put together.
Yeah. Yep. Good luck with that. I'll tell you what. We're going to talk about this in the Brain Symposium to a certain extent. But what Eric Schmidt, and by the way, he's the heir apparent to Henry Kissinger at this point, in my opinion, sitting on the Trilateral Commission especially. But what Eric Schmidt is trying to convince us of is that, well, whatever AI is going to be, it's like going to be a fait accompli at this point. We can't control it. It's out of our control even now, he said. Well, that's nonsense. Absolutely balderdash. And so we're going to see something different in the future when it puts the clamp on us individually as citizens of our country. They're going to sit back and be smug and say, well, we told you so. How many times have we heard this same play in the last 50 years? Well, we told you so. You didn't do anything when you had an opportunity to do it. So they blame us for everything that they're doing to us in the first place. Absolutely off the wall, in my opinion.
And, he goes on to talk about how these, again, will become smarter than all humans put together. It's ASI, yes. Which I guess that stands for artificial super intelligence. That's where we're headed.
Exactly. And you know what? There's going to be a sense that people are going to be deceived to think that that's smart. And maybe on one hand, it'll be machine intelligence, not human intelligence, but people will take it that way. Because even now, the AI, in fact, some model of AI just passed the Turing test just recently, where researchers tried to assess whether they were talking to a human or an AI bot. And the AI fooled a bunch of them, like 75% of them or so, fooled them into thinking it was a real human on the other end. So when you have that kind of capability of deceiving people, you can feed them anything at that point. And so, the debate on is it going to be ASI, AGI, whatever, rules-based system, it doesn't really matter at that point, because it has the ability to deceive people into thinking that they should do exactly what the AI tells it to do. Period. Of end of subject. Yeah.
Well, particularly if it's smarter than all humans combined, right?
Well, that's what they're going to claim.
That's right.
Right. And so, hey, I say, Eric Schmidt, it's going to be smarter than you too. You better run for the hills, dude.
Yeah. Well, now we're seeing that they're writing legislation with this, right? You're using AI to write legislation. I mean, that's already going on in what country? You guys were reporting on it, Logan, and you were reporting on it this week. What country was that?
Well, actually, that was another story. Something is happening in Saudi Arabia right now. But yes, lobbyists at this point are going hog wild over AI because they can spin out legislation at record pace. And, who can understand this stuff? It churns out, stuff by the hundreds of pages, and they submit it to hungry legislators who don't want to do their own bills. Hey, we'll take this one over here. Oh, it's 1,500 pages. Oh, that's no problem. 1,500 pages. Let me lift it for you, sort of thing. And, we're going to see all this stuff, complicated stuff. Nobody's going to understand it, especially before they voted on it. And it's just going to turn our legal system upside down.
Well, what about judges? Because today we've had 2 judges arrested for, basically hiding out gang members, right? One judge and his wife were hiding out Tren de Aragua folks, and then another one in Milwaukee got arrested. She got arrested and then bonded out for, I guess, hiding an illegal immigrant from ICE or something to that effect. So you got 2 judges being arrested today. How long before, listen to this, don't let a good crisis go to waste. How long before the right and the left, neither one of them trust the judges? Nobody trusts the judges anymore. The right doesn't trust the judges. The left doesn't trust the left judge. The right doesn't trust the left judges. The left judges don't trust the right judges. So they're looking at who appointed. That's a Donald Trump judge. I don't trust that one. That's a Obama judge. Well, what if you get rid of the judges and instead you use AI? That AI becomes the impartial judge, just looking at the facts. Would the American people, you think, go along with this? Hey, there's a way to depoliticize our courts. We're going to have AI make judgments and rulings and sentencing and fines and penalties. Is that coming?
You said it, not me. But I could have said that, but you said it. You articulated on your own. I'm just saying, you got the picture. This is exactly where it's going to go.
But you could do this all the way down the line. I mean, at what point do we say we don't need these goofy elected officials like AOC, right? The right doesn't like those people. The left doesn't like these people. So just get rid of all these politicians that, I mean, today they sentenced Santos. Was that his name, Logan? The Congressman Santos, or whatever his name was?
Santos, yeah.
They sentenced him to 87 months in prison, right? Okay. We just had the U.S. Senator from New Jersey sentenced, right? And now his wife. Okay, so we got elected officials doing things they should not be doing. A lot of people, half the country doesn't like one half, the other half doesn't like the other half. Let's just get rid of all of them. Why can we not have AI representing us in the House and the Senate? I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm just posing questions. At what point do they say, we're done with the bureaucrats and the fighting, let's turn it over to artificial intelligence at the local, state, and federal level? It's smarter, it's proficient, we don't have to pay them salaries, we don't have to pay them health insurance, we don't have to pay them retirement. They're not going to go out and do corrupt stuff. Just let the AI people do it for us.
Look, this is exactly the plan that Peter Thiel is promoting with Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land from the UK. the destruction, basically, of democracy and the constitutional republic, installing a monarch to run our country rather than like a strong man, a monarch, rather than being run by rule of law. And they're saying basically we need to replace all government employees, as called RAGE, the RAGE program. We need to replace all government employees, as many as we can, with AI to run everything. This is exactly the plan.
Now think about this. Now think about adding this with the mark of the beast system, right? That Revelation 13, Revelation 14, no one can buy or sell unless you have the mark, right? But then also in Revelation 17, we see 10 horns. The 10 kings are 10 horns who have not yet received a kingdom, meaning at the time John the Revelator was writing, but will along with the beast. And they turn and they give their power at some point. They delegate all of their power that they've gained to the Antichrist, who then becomes the world dictator. But at first, it's the Antichrist and 10 world assistants. Well, we got the Club of Rome, we got the UN, we've got the European Union Commission, all dividing the world into 10 regions years ago, right? A North American Union, a South American Union, a European Union, etc., right? 10 horns, 10 regions. Okay. How do you do that? How do you do this? Now it's starting to make sense because, like you just said, that guy or gal is just a figurehead. They don't really have to be that smart. They don't have to be that bright. They're really just a figurehead because from everything down is being run by AI. So when you said you're really installing a king, you're installing a monarch, I thought, well, isn't that what we see in the Bible? The 10 horns are 10 kings, right?
Yes, exactly.
A monarch system. Okay, who is running everything down below it? Everything down below it's basically being run by AI because you just described a system where it's totally the Great Reset, build back better, tear down what you have, build something back, and what they're going to build back will not be based on Republican, Libertarian, Conservative, Liberal, Marxist, Islamist. It'll be a system of technology that can take all of the personalities and all of the corruption and all of the cost and all the lack of efficiency, take it completely out of the system. Get rid of all that and go to what's smarter than anybody, AI, because they're saying it's smarter than all the humans combined. And then we can eliminate corruption and crime. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could see where they could pitch this, and then your guy that's one of the 10 kings in the world's divided into 10 regions, these are just basically figureheads that are just briefing the population based on everything being driven by a AI technology system.
Let me tell you that Curtis Yarvin, this is the guy that was behind Dark MAGA and the Dark Enlightenment. He's calling for sovereign corporations. He calls them SovCorps, for sovereign corporations. He says sovereign corporations should own all of the real estate and resources in the world. He says every square foot of planet Earth should be owned by a SovCorp. This is exactly where we're headed when you look at the 10 kings. Who's going to own those resources? It's going to be run like a corporation at that point.
And so your kings would just be the head of those 10 regions or 10 corporations.
The CEOs of those regions, the SovCorp, the sovereign corporation. I'll tell you what, this whole ideology is all based on technocracy, by the way. But Curtis Yarvin, whether he knows it or not, maybe he's just a pedestrian philosopher, a thinker, but maybe he just doesn't understand what he's doing. But he's cooking up the ideology that can fuel exactly what we're talking about: 10 kingdoms run like CEOs or kingdoms run by a corporation.
And then no one can buy or sell.
Owns all the resources.
And then no one can buy or sell. So you got this whole system. Now, that brings in Elon Musk, who was over at the World Summit in the United Arab Emirates a few months ago saying, well, look, the robots and all of this is going to take away jobs. And people are going to have a hard time having a purpose in life. But I'm sorry, I'm not saying I'm for it, but we're going to have to go to basic universal income, right? UBI, universal basic income, right?
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he said, who, me? I didn't do it. I'm just saying, that's what's going to happen, But hey, Elon, you're just as deep in this as Curtis Yarvin or Peter Thiel. By the way, Elon Musk was partnered with Peter Thiel, and when PayPal was founded in 1999, 2000, in that period of time, these people know each other. They're cut from the same cloth, for Pete's sake. So when he says, "Oh, I don't know how this happened," just an inadvertent thing that happened. Our programmers just discovered all of a sudden, AI just popped out at them, and we just don't know how we're gonna control it now. Give me a break. They knew everything going along the way. They're in charge of their companies. Elon Musk is in charge of his sovereign corporation, for Pete's sake. He's in control of everything that goes on in his company. Don't think he isn't. Same thing with Peter Thiel. Do you think he does not know what goes on with Palantir, for instance? All the contracts and stuff he has for Intel and AI stuff that he's doing with the governments to spy on all the people. Do you think that's out of his control? No, it's exactly under his control. So anytime they say, "Oh, we just don't know what happened," give me a break. They're trying to set themselves up for plausible deniability.
Oh, well
that's all
said.
it is.
Well said. And now you have Steve Bannon wanting a certified letter or something from Elon Musk saying that he is not taking up any of this data through Doge, correct?
Yes. That's interesting thought. Somebody probably should call for that.
Well, Steve Bannon is.
I know, he is. Exactly. Sure. More people why didn't somebody figure that out before now? I mean, all the press conferences, all this. So we're saving all this money. We stripped this around. We've gotten we've got all these employees taking leave, pay our buyouts, whatever they call them. And okay, so show me the beef. Exactly how much have you stripped out of our budget? Nobody can do that at this point, and Elon Musk isn't doing it either. Doge has not produced any report to date on the money they're saving the taxpayers.
So
Go figure. I mean, yeah,
they say that they're saving. First, it was going to be trillions. Then it's come down to billions. But we have not seen any proof of it. And then now the judges are telling them, you can't do this, you can't do that. So pretty much everything, a lot of this stuff is being reversed. Any headway they were making, some was being reversed, right?
So to some extent, probably. But my point is, all the stuff they promised, if it's not happening, if the math is not there, where we're getting dividends, if you will, off those savings. That was promised in the first place.
We were all going to get $5,000 Doge checks. What happened to that?
Exactly. We're not going to get that at this point. But at this point, you have to figure, okay, if saving money, and this is what I said from the beginning anyway, if saving money wasn't the objective of Doge and Elon Musk, what was the other objective that might satisfy them? That would be the data, because the data that they're rolling around with AI right now, this is pure gold. To a technocrat, this is pure gold. The value is in the data. To them, that's where the riches are going to come from, the data. So,
and just so the audience understands, because then you're down to very tailored marketing. We know who you are, what you buy, what you like, what you don't like, what your income is. Now we can tailor all of our marketing and sales and not waste any money trying to hit a group of people and hope that people that want our product see it. Now they can market and sell that data. And of course, the money is made also in selling it off to other vendors, right?
Yes, exactly. So, all I'm saying is I think there was another agenda from the get-go, and it involved data. That's where the value, people have been saying this for what, 15, 20 years now, that the data is the new oil, right?
Right.
So what's the biggest source of data in the world at this point, other than the U.S. government?
Right.
Yeah, they got it all
so Steve
in
Bannon,
one place.
Steve Bannon must be onto that, or he wouldn't be asking for this letter from Elon Musk, right?
I hope he's onto something, honestly. I hope he has the ability to push Musk somehow to produce something. I think American people, he owes that to the American people to say something. I'm afraid he won't, though, because that's the way technocrats are. Technocrats want to hide their activities, and they've done this for 50 years now.
Steve Bannon says Elon Musk should provide specific accounting of fraud uncovered by Doge. That was the other day.
Yes, exactly. That's a good call. In my opinion, that's a good call.
Here we go. Bannon also said he wants a letter of certification showing no one has taken any data from the Trump administration or government, to which Semaphor's editor-in-chief Ben Smith asked, sounds like you don't trust Musk not to take data, ? Bannon said, trust but verify.
The problem is,
look at that. He's called Musk evil in an escalating clash with the tech billionaire.
I know. You can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. But yeah, we should have an accounting from Musk for sure.
All right. So tomorrow begins the big day, April 26th, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard, for the Battle for the Brain with Patrick Wood, Catherine Austin Fitts, and who else?
Yes. We have Dr. David Hughes from the UK. We have Dr. Lissa Johnson from Australia. We have Dr. Daniel Brudi from Japan. Of course, I am in the United States. You're in the United States. Catherine Austin Fitts is in the Netherlands, I believe, at this point.
Yep.
And so we're really an international audience, and we have an international symposium going on. And I'm hoping it's going to be streamed all over the world. It's on CHD, that's Children's Health Defense. It's on Solari.com. It's on technocracynews.com. It's on worldviewweekend.com. This is going to be spread all over the world and recorded in multiple continents, I hope, so that this information could be preserved going forward. We're probably going to get in a lot of trouble for exposing what we're going to expose tomorrow.
Oh, well, thank you, Patrick.
Hey, we might as well just let it all hang out, right?
That's right.
We're going for a break. We're going for broke.
Yeah, we are. We're all going to be digital slaves before long anyway, right?
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not,
God is, fortunately, God is on our side, and these people are not going to outwit God, and they're not going to replace God with an AI God, that's for sure. So, in the meantime, we have to deal with all this mess that they've created on planet Earth, and it's not going to end well for them. Fortunately for us who put our trust in Christ and not in their machines, we'll come out okay,
But it is setting up Bible prophecy to be fulfilled.
It is.
And
exactly.
if I believe Bible prophecy, which I do,
yes.
I do believe this system will happen. Now, people say, well, then why are you opposing it? Because we're called to oppose evil. Whether it happens or not, we're called to oppose it, right? That's what we do.
Yes.
That's what we're called to do, to be salt and light. The Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose it. That's what the Bible says, right?
Yep.
So that's what we're doing. But I do believe this is building that beast system, and then there is this battle between God's kingdom and Satan's kingdom. And for a while, Satan is going to get an earthly kingdom. I think he's going to have a corporate headquarters of a Eurocentric world government. I think there's going to be one world system, economic, religious, political. But then the good news is God's kingdom will come, Daniel 2, verse 44, crush Satan's kingdom, and of God's kingdom there'll be no end. So I'm watching the stage being set for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. It's quite remarkable to watch it. I mean, can you imagine John Whitcomb or John Walvoord or Henry Morris or Robert L. Thomas or Hal Lindsey? I mean, he just passed away recently. But all these guys that were writing about this stuff for years, Charles Ryrie, and now here we are, right? On the front line.
Exactly.
Jimmy DeYoung, he would love to be watching this right now. I think he'd rather be where he's at, but they all wrote about it. Now we're going through it.
Exactly.
But I'm not planning on going through all of it. My eschatology says at some point the church is going to be removed here, which I think is what sets up the tribulation. Because if Patrick Wood is not here, and Brennan House is not here, and you, my listening friend, are not here, then the Holy Spirit dwelling in us is not here. That it is not that it stops being here on the earth, drawing people to himself, but we are a restrainer. The church and Christians are a restrainer. Think of all the Christians. I just hung up a phone conversation with someone's a former congressman and talking about all the evil it's in the world and in the deep state. And we are talking about people that are no longer with us, people that have been opposing this, people that are still here opposing this. What if all these people that have been opposing this evil that are still here, what happens when they're no longer here, right? Can you imagine the flood of evil when there's no longer a resistance? And the Bible says that at some point the Holy Spirit, the restrainer, is going to stop restraining. And I think that's in part because the church filled with the Holy Spirit, believers, is removed, and the Holy Spirit steps back and says to the world, you want to worship frogs? Well, here you go. You want to worship demons? Here's a bunch of them for you, right? And the things you start seeing in the tribulation is almost the very things they're worshiping. Nature starts rebelling against them. Now all of a sudden you got Babylon being a dwelling place for demons and every unclean spirit. I mean, it's basically God stepping back and saying, I'm giving you over, Romans 1. And I think, again, the church has been removed because we don't see the church mentioned again after Revelation 4. We see it in 3 and 4. It's not mentioned again. There's a reference to it at the marriage supper of the Lamb, but then again, the church is not mentioned again until Revelation, I think, chapter 20. So what happens to the church where it's specifically mentioned over and over and over in Revelation 3 and 4, then it's not mentioned, and then it doesn't appear till the very end of the book where God sets up his kingdom. I think the church has been removed. That's not escapism on my part. I'm just telling you what's in the text. Which to me, what in part makes the tribulation so bad is that people that have been resisting it, fighting it back, being the salt and light, have been removed. That doesn't mean there's not going to be people becoming believers during that tribulation. They are. But as you read, almost as fast as they're getting saved, they're being murdered because they have become believers. Right, Patrick?
That's exactly right. And let me just give an exhortation, I think, for any Christian listening to this who throws their hands up and said, I can't deal with this. I don't want to. I just turn off the knob. Turn off the TV. I'll tell you what. You're in charge now of your own fate in a sense. But if you turn a blind eye to what's going on today in the world, you can't be salt and light to the people around you at that point. If you rein yourself in where you won't talk to people, how can you make an influence in your community? This is the most important role that Christians should have right now, to be in a position to be ambassadors for Christ, to explain as an ambassador should, to explain what's going on in this system we call the world in the first place. And if you can't do it, nobody else can do it. I guarantee you, there's nobody in the world can explain what's going on right now, except a Christian who really understands what is going on.
Amen to that. And that's why Bible sales are spiking. In the polls show it's with first-time buyers. First time. They're trying to figure it out. We need to be walking Bibles in our testimony.
Yes.
And otherwise, you're like a broken watch. You're no good. You're just for show.
Right.
You're just for show. You're no good. You're a broken watch. You can't tell the time. You can't give the time of the season. And yet Jesus chided the religious leaders of his day. They said you can discern the weather, but you can't discern the times, right? Don't be a broken watch just for show.
Yep. Exactly.
Technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Hey, as always, thank you, Patrick. Appreciate your being with us. And thanks for heading up tomorrow's big symposium.
You bet. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see everybody there, and I hope you chime in on the chats and stuff. We're going to be monitoring all the chat streams. Make your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be up watching it. That's tomorrow, April 26th, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Central, 9 Eastern at Worldview Tube and Technocracy.news and other platforms. But you'll find it right here as Logan produces it out of our studios, worldviewtube.com. Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. Thank you, Patrick.
You bet.
All right, that's our broadcast for tonight. Hey, folks, don't forget about getting your free business cards. Get your pack of free 20 business cards, absolutely free. Worldviewstore.com. Pass them out to your family, friends, your neighbors, maybe the waiter, the waitress, someone you meet in the grocery store line. Say, hey, I think you might enjoy this network, worldviewradio.com. Why are you scratching at the French doors that go into the control room? She clearly wants to see you guys in there tonight. You guys not letting Dolly in? He's scratching at the glass door there to go in. She loves going in. She goes in and out of that studio control room multiple times a day between her pet bed and there. She loves going in there to say hello to the boys. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. I got to give Cayman a bottle. My granddaughter's here, as you guys know. And I don't know what I'm going to do for my birthday tomorrow. You got anything planned for me, Logan? Oh, you're going to take me to dinner? Wow. Do I have to pay for my own dinner? Okay. I don't care. I do. I'm just happy to go be with you. So, yeah, my granddaughter, my daughter are all in town. We're going to have a big time. All right? Hope you have a big time this weekend as well. Thanks for watching. The next time at Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us on this April 25th, 2025, 04/25/25. Dr. Andy Woods is going to join us. We were off for Good Friday last week, so we didn't have a chance to do our Middle East Bible prophecy update, so we're going to go to him. We leave a week from today for the nation's capital. We'll be there filming for a week, better part of a week, actually. We got a lot of great interviews set up. Some of it we'll tell you about after it happens, but we have a great interview at the Anti-Communist Museum. We'll be touring that, filming that, putting together a whole TV special for that. We have filled out the permits and paid the National Park Service for $900 for having the rights to film at many of the monuments and memorials. We have House and Senate passes for filming and interviewing members of the House and the Senate on the House side and then the Senate side. And we're hitting a lot of historic sites and can produce a lot of great patriotic and historical and educational, encouraging programming. So it's going to be amazing. And we appreciate your prayers for safe travel and good weather and open doors of new opportunities. Even today, I sent off a couple email requests for interviews with a couple very key people. Some of you that you wouldn't even think you wouldn't even guess that I would send an email to them. Not because they're leftists or liberals, you just wouldn't think of it, but they're historic people living there. And so I'll tell you more about it after the trip and during the trip, but it's going to be great. We're going to collect a lot of interviews and a lot of footage, produce a lot of great television to bring to all of you, And I hope, again, you'll be praying for our safe travels. Let's see what else before I go to Dr. Woods. Oh, last night how long was that interview, Logan? Last night I had with me, I can tell you, it was 2 hours and 4 minutes or 4 seconds, right? Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's a 2-minute ad. Okay, skip that. Okay, so it was an hour and 28. An hour and 28 minutes last night. I interviewed Richard Gage. He's an architect. In fact, if you want just a quick synopsis, go to worldviewtimes.com. That's our article page. And you'll see an article there, The Unsettling Truth About 9/11. Richard Gage exposes evidence on Building 7 and beyond.